This is Chelsea versus Manchester United.
Chelsea against Manchester United, the big one of the weekend. We know you have an opinion on it, so do get in touch. Use the hashtag weekend warm-up, and we will try to read out as many comments as possible. By the way, Jay, it's nice to have you back.
Thank you.
We missed you.
Thank you. At least you said it.
No, of course, of course. But a lot has happened since we were all last here, and we've got to start with talking about Manchester United. We said goodbye to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I guess the club had no choice following that horrific defeat at the hands of Watford, Don.
No, it seems that was rock bottom. And Don Motson was on comms for that, and it was a 4 going on 7 or 8. They missed 2 penalties. David De Gea was pulling off saves. Maguire was on the line, last-ditch tackles. The work rate wasn't there. I never like to say players give up, but the way Watford were knocking at the door, especially in the second half, then Maguire gets sent off. They should have been down to 9 because Scott McTominay should have been sent off early. And I stand by Seames and Jonathan. There's always a number that gets the manager the sack. And if Man U had lost that 1-0, he probably wouldn't have gone. If they had a drew or won, he still wouldn't have gone because the club had no plan. You saw Norwich the week before when they had a win, they still sacked Daniel Farke because they had a foresight, they had a plan what to do. United never had that. And if Ollie had lost that 1-0, they still wouldn't have sacked him. But the 4, watching the game, could have been 7 or 8. You saw it. It was actually painful to watch. When the cameras were panning on Ollie towards the end of the game, you sort of knew what was coming because it was a painful loss. And as I said, it was rock bottom.
I mean, Leroy, what we know about the Premier League, on any given week, any team can beat any team, all right? That's absolutely fair to say. I think the more worrying thing for the way that Manchester United were playing under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, other than the results, was the way that they were playing. It was the manner of the performance, the manner of the defeats. Getting beaten by your bitter rivals, Liverpool 5.
The numbers, JJ.
Even though they only lost 2-0.
But
even though they only lost 2-0 to Manchester City, it was 2 going on 7 or 8.
Look, the alarm bells were ringing at the Liverpool game because it was the manner of the defeat. You felt, how can they come back for this? And the worst thing that could have happened to them is they went and beat a really poor Tottenham side. And all of a sudden they think, they're back on track, which they weren't. And then I thought the man of the Man City game was even worse than the Liverpool game.
Yeah.
And then to go to Watford, it really, lots of Man United supporters I spoke to said, you know what, after 10 minutes, we weren't really surprised because that's how they've been playing. And it was like they're making him suffer. And you don't deserve that. No one wants anybody to lose their job. But the manner in which they've done this, what he must have been going through over the last few weeks was ridiculous because he knew it was coming. Yeah. Everybody else knew it was coming. And Don's absolutely right. The reason why they didn't sack him was selfish reasons because it feels like they didn't have a plan.
They had him limping on
for
quite a while.
They wanted to make it work, though. You felt like they wanted it to work for him because
I'm not
otherwise
sure,
they would have got rid of him
obviously
after
they want
Liverpool, Man City. I think they wanted because no one wants to see a club legend leave that way. But it was just
they wanted it to work for him.
Yeah, they did.
But they're the only ones watching on that knew it wasn't working.
Yeah.
We all know the game, and all the millions of fans around the world know the game. And it can be any club, by the way. It could be Newcastle, it could be Southampton, it could be anyone. You know when a team and a manager is in a tough run of results. We've just seen them there.
David De Gea post-match when he was saying we didn't know what to do with the ball.
That's it, Seems, because hierarchy and owners and chairmen will never sack a manager on the strength of what we say. But when a player comes out like David De Gea and he said, we didn't know what to do with the ball, we don't know how to defend and we were shambles. Those are heavy words from a player, and that sticks it straight onto the manager. So the owners have gone, we've got no choice. But I would actually blame the owners for allowing Ollie to limp on for quite a few weeks.
But Don, it's not even that. When he got the job, and you're pleased for him because it meant a lot for him. But as I said, we keep coming back to the absolute facts, and this is the absolute truth. He's up against the elite managers in the world, and it's no disrespect to him, but he's come from mould. It don't matter what your playing career is. You need to have had some sort of experience to stand you in good, and he's had none, in all honesty. And so they put him in at the deep end, and he was just keeping his head above water all the time. You could see it, and you never felt at any point during his tenure that Man United were going to get anywhere near Man City or Liverpool. I know people were having a go at me because I was saying it, but you just knew it. Everybody knew it. It wasn't like you had to be an expert. You could just see it because there was no real development. Everything he did was almost game to game. Oh, if Bruno comes in, if Bruno plays well, they do all right. Before that, if they do all right. If it doesn't, if Pogba don't play well, they don't. What other side relies on one player to get you a result?
Like any walk of life, to get to a certain level, if you're standing across there, you're standing here, you need a little bit of experience behind you. Now, Ollie's got the knowledge behind him, but you need experience. And Leroy's right. When you come up against like Ancelotti last season, and Klopp, and Guardiola, and Thomas Tuchel, it's like when Ryan Mason went in at Tottenham. trying to deal with the likes of Guardiola and trying to pick their brains. It's impossible with no experience behind him. So now they've fast-forwarded a few days and Michael Carrick's now in the hot seat, a guy that's not managed before. So the plan's there for them with Rangnick coming in for, 18 months or 2 years to then try and appoint a proper manager. It just feels as though nothing's happening, seems.
There were a lot of people raised eyebrows at Paul Scholes being quite vocal and vociferous on it, to say that he's maybe a part of the problem. He was a part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's team that didn't do really well. Why has he stayed in charge? Is that fair, unfair?
Well, it's not fair because an assistant manager you're there to assist, and it's the manager who makes the decision. So to then say, look, he should go as well because he was there and he's part of the problem. I've seen loads of assistant managers who back their manager because that's their job. They could have the arguments behind the scenes. So Michael Carrick might have been totally disagreeing with Ollie behind the scenes, but when they got out in front of the cameras, he was 100% behind him. That's correct. That's the correct thing to do. So it was unfair to blame him. But what I did see on that bench was the body language. You know, when it was going wrong, I didn't see anybody up. They should have been up, being energetic. I saw their body. They just sunk into themselves. And that's lack of experience. That's lack of... Michael Carrick, I think McKenna was on the bench.
And you need to be courageous.
You need to be braver. When things are going against you, you've got to step forward, not step back. And just saw Ollie on the bench, sat with Michael Carrick. And that's why I think Paul Scholes... he might know more than me because he knows these guys, but it was totally unfair to blemish Michael Carrick with the same brush. But
I think what you're probably alluding to, he's probably alluding to that there's no experience. If Michael's going to then take over, you then give one of the biggest clubs in the world to a guy that's never managed anyone ever before.
You might find yourself in the same problem again.
Exactly.
That you had before.
And I look back at the way some of the Man United players walked off that pitch at Vicarage Road, and Bruno was one of them, who was trying to gesture to the Man United fans, don't blame the manager, blame us. They were a good 15 yards behind Ollie. I think that would have carried more weight if Bruno and one or two others, that was me and you, we go, come on, let's go and stand by JJ, just as he's about to get the sack.
Support him, yeah.
One day. One day.
It's not happening.
Check.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
It's
not.
Yes,
he's back. He's back. So look,
I think it would have carried more weight if they all had been right alongside.
Exactly.
So Michael Carrick, I mean, he has a 100% winning record because he did win against
Give him the job then.
But we know that Manchester United do have plans to bring in Rangnick. Now, I don't know how many people know too much about him, but what I have read about him and heard about him is that he is the godfather of German football, and he has got a lot of experience, especially in coaching. You're not going to hear players not knowing what they're doing, that's for sure, Don.
I've been commentating on the Bundesliga for, 4 or 5 seasons now, and he's unbelievably well respected. And the likes of Nagelsmann and Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp have all come under his management, if you like. But what I see with Rangnick, I see a guy that I think is best suited above the management scenario. I think you get him at boardroom level. And I think what he likes to sort of look down at everything and then form a structure. And he can put his managers, he can put his coaches, he can put, development teams into place. He can galvanise and change your training ground, the pitches, everything I think he's best at, in my humble opinion, is everything apart from being a manager. Even though he's quite a good manager himself, I think he excels at that higher level.
This could be good, it could be bad. If it's good, he'll go in there for 6 months, he'll put something in place where the next manager goes, brilliant, I can come in and do my job straight away. I don't have to mess around putting certain things in place. It can go really bad if he goes and he's really great and they're thinking, oh my word, we can't move him on because the fans are screaming for him to stay on. But he needs to do the right thing, which is, when he's doing the next 6 months, just explain what his job is. What his job is. Is it to just go and get back in the top 4, which suggests that it's a manager's job, or is it to put certain things in place right around the club, including the first team, obviously concentrating on the first team, to make sure that when the new manager comes in, he's ready to hit the ground running.
Wonder how Luke Shaw's feeling. That went a little bit viral.
Yeah, didn't like him, did he?
Rangnick a couple of years ago saying they need a new left-back. Luke Shaw's not up to the level. Wow.
Well,
in his defence, he wasn't up to the level then, and he's played a lot better since.
Yeah, but he might be in to do the dirty work. Do you know what? He might be in to do the dirty work, to get rid of some players that they need getting rid of, so the new manager comes in and he hits the ground with a squad that's ready, he can go and build on and take them forward. That's what I think is very quickly.
The interesting thing on his style is everything like Jurgen Klopp wants, and like many teams over the years have had, a pressing style, being aggressive, getting your teams after the ball,
Those
trying
players
to win the
are going to
ball.
have to work, aren't they? Work
Not
hard.
sure if they've got the personnel for that, Don.
The contradiction is Ronaldo going to do that? Can he do that? Can Cavani still do that? Can Jadon Sancho do that? Can Rashford do that? Can they get into the style that he wants?
And then if they can't, will he be bold enough to drop them?
Exactly.
That's the interesting thing.
The answer to that is no. Ronaldo's not getting dropped.
No?
No.
OK. We'll have to watch this space, won't we? Well, thank you for your tweets so far. We've had a few comments coming in. I'll read a couple of them out. Ainsley said, I'm fearing the worst for Manchester United. Chelsea are ruthless. They are, aren't they? And I'm not giving them any chance to win this one. We'll talk about the fixture in a moment, actually, in a bit more detail. And John has said, I can't wait for Chelsea United. It'll be a wake-up call for the Man United board. I do not blame Ole for our form. Our board needs to jack up if they want us to succeed.
Marcus Rashford ahead of that game against Chelsea this weekend. And when you're out of form and you don't have a good structure, what you don't need, Leroy, is to be coming up against a side that have only conceded 4 goals all season.
It's not a very good idea. It's not a very good idea. We've got the teams up here. We'll start with Ben Chilwell. You got some news on Ben Chilwell, Dr. Don?
Dr. Don, well, I mean, Thomas Tuchel's saying at least 6 weeks on a partial ACL.
OK.
I think that's optimistic.
It's optimistic. Yeah, OK. Well, it looked like a bad one at the time.
You wouldn't
look,
lose your doctor, would you? 6 weeks? Yeah, it's not 6 weeks, it's more.
No. OK, well, look, we'll look at the Chelsea side. We've got Chalobah in, it could be Christensen, just as strong. Put Loftus-Cheek in there, because he seems to have come to the fore under Tuchel recently.
Kovacic not quite ready, we don't think.
Kante's got an injury as well. And then the front three of Hudson-Odoi, Havertz and Mount. We've got Lukaku and Timo Werner on the bench. They could play some part. They could even start. But whoever starts on for Chelsea, they're going to be strong. What about Man United?
Well, Maguire's missing. He's got a one-match ban after the 2 yellows against Watford. Bailly's been knocking on the door, and he was quite vocal, actually. He was one of the ones that I wouldn't say caused a problem to Ole, because if you're Eric Bailly, it's worth asking the question why Maguire was starting instead of him when he's been fit for quite a while. Fred's got a knock, but I've got him in the middle of the park with McTominay. Bruno Fernandes was rested midweek against Villarreal. And I think Jadon Sancho, will be happy with Rangnick coming in over the next week or two. I think he'll get him playing. And I've got Marcus Rashford. It could have been Martial or one or two others, or even maybe Jesse Lingard. Van der Beek as well was another one that I thought of. But I don't think that'll be too far away from Michael Carrick's first game in charge in the Premier League against Chelsea. Well,
it's not unlikely, apart from Baez, I think it's more or less the same team that started against Watford. Look, let's go through that Watford debacle. What did you make of it, Don?
I mean, ridiculously uncomfortable to watch, Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this is one of these where sometimes you've just got to let the pitches do the talking. I can draw lines all over this, but you just look at the way Man United haven't really got any legs in them. A team like Watford start well, they get on the front foot, just double quick. The lack of closing down is quite evident, and they play it on. And Watford start well. It's the game you've seen a million times before, Leroy. We've seen it on the first Friday night when Brentford went long and got in Arsenal's faces and stopped them from playing. Watford done the same, and before this, they could have been 2 or 3-0 up.
It's
before
interesting.
The first goal.
Absolutely, Don. I've heard loads of people talking about Man United, but the other thing you have to say is that for the opposition now, there's no fear factor playing Man United. Everybody turns up expecting them to have a real go. Look at Watford. They've got players up in the box, people on the front foot. And that fear factor, when you play against Man United, you think, no, we're just going to hold on to things for a while. Well, that certainly didn't happen for Watford.
So this is a 3v3, and you look at it from either Watford's point of view, that's good that they've got a 3v3, and Man United have got exactly the same. So you should say, right, Watford are going to need to wriggle out of this and do a little bit of skill, because 1v1 in that 3v3, Man United should be fine. And you sort of watch it unfold, and nothing's really happening, but they're keeping possession. And then all of a sudden, they get an overload. Sarr's just got so much space in there, but he's in there for an age.
Yeah.
So either Luke Shaw has got to do one or two things. He's got to shut this line off here, encourage the cross to come in from that side, or have a little bit of spatial awareness and think, right, if I'm in that position there, who's the threat? And it's going to be Sarr.
Yeah.
And nothing really happens in that passage of play, apart from Watford thinking, well, at some point, I've got to give it to Sarr because he's in a bit of space. And before that, by the way, he'd missed 2 penalties, so credit him for getting his head back together.
Exactly.
But it was far too easy, Leroy. Nothing really on the count. I'm not really winning the balls back. A team like Watford are dominating the ball and looking like $1 million. Lindelof doesn't even offer. I mean, if I can take back there, I mean, we talk about players and we talk about players not really committing. And as Lindelof's closing the ball down there, I know 100% fact, if I was in his position, I would be doing a sort of sliding tackle to put the block on. I wouldn't be allowing the shot to go at my goalkeeper.
Donny
Nothing. Puts his hands behind his back.
He seems more concerned with not giving away a penalty for handball.
And then this one's a case of bullied,
Yeah.
bullied, goal.
Do you see, Leroy, as a former manager, a team that are just lacking confidence? Is that what it is as well?
Absolutely, totally evaporated, got no confidence whatsoever. Conceding goals at the wrong time, making bad decisions all the time. But you know what? When you're in that situation and you're at a club with professional footballers, you have a chat amongst yourself. When you're going through a bad time on the football pitch, you'll say, right, I'm not having a great time. So, JJ, you come in and play with me and Don. For 5 minutes, you come in and play with me. I didn't see any of that. And there are always moments in the game. People think that Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea play well all the time. They don't. They have bad periods in the game. If you look at those bad periods, Thiago Silva will be saying, just come in here for fight. Just come in here and we'll see it out.
Just come in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go in there. Just drop in there. We'll go through. We'll go. Chelsea have gone to in the middle of the park, so we'll go man for 5 minutes.
Exactly, and give nothing away. And that never happened at
And that was
Man
good
United.
midweek with Michael Carrick because he'd done a good interview after the game. Because I watched the game against Villarreal and they could have been 2 or 3-0 up. Villarreal, De Gea was pulling off saves left, right and centre. And Michael Carrick actually said, he went, you're not going to get a team when you're in a bad moment like Man United to go then to Villarreal and completely outplay them and pop them off the park. So he said, we had to suffer. And that's probably what you're going to see in this game because you don't get confidence overnight, seems. You don't get it. Confidence comes from a run of results and being hard to beat. And they got the win midweek. Now they can take a tiny bit of momentum going into the Chelsea game. But the first goal in this game is going to be so important because if they lose it, if they get it, they've got a bit of confidence to try and hang on to something.
Absolutely. And you were talking about first goal. Now we've got strikers on the pitch, Chelsea, and we've picked out Reece James for our analysis because he's been playing like a striker in recent weeks.
He's their top goal scorer in all comps.
Absolutely, and he's been unbelievable.
It's like he knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm
exactly.
just going to show
You didn't know that.
No, yes, I did. I knew that. I just left it to you, Seema. I'm just going to pause it there. I'm just going to pause it there.
That's why JJ's back.
What I want you to look at is his starting positions, right, as a wing-back. All these clips show him in different starting positions. This one is high up the pitch on that right-hand side. And as we play it through, you'll see it'll end up with him. There's an overload against Arsenal, takes a touch and sticks it in the back of the net. This second one, he's a fullback now. I'm just going to pause it here. He's starting in that fullback position. The thing with Reece James is not just about his technical ability, it's not just about his technique on the ball, it's his timing. His timing is always spot on. This is against Norwich, and this time as the ball develops, he's just creeping forward. He knows something's about to happen. He's gone already. He's anticipated it. He's seen the picture, and that's a wonderful finish, as good as a centre-forward you'll ever see. And I'm just going to pause it here. This time, you see him here. He's in a defensive position. And all these, so the reason I'm doing these is because what I'm suggesting is he's been taught correctly. Yeah. He's been taught absolutely brilliantly. So they're in possession, so he's got to be tucked in because the ball's being contested, just in case anything happens. But I just want to see when he releases himself. As they play on, right, now I'm going, now I'm going, now I'm going, now I'm off. Now I'm off, I'm on my way. And it's that recognition of when to go, when to stay, and the time that he arrives when the defender can't really see him, doesn't know that he's there. Now he's going to stick it in the back of the net. What a strike that is. Absolutely brilliant.
He's a fullback playing ahead of his years, isn't he?
Exactly.
It's almost like, you look at Thiago Silva and you look at Reece James, and it's like Reece James has got Thiago Silva's head on at a young age.
One of the other things I just noticed there, when he goes forward, he doesn't go forward in a kamikaze, reckless style that if the move breaks down at the wrong time, he's still got enough about him to recover. You see a lot of fullbacks go forward and get out of position, but he seems to time it, as you said.
He times it absolutely perfectly. And this last one, I think it's almost like Liverpool. Remember when Liverpool did so well and we talked about Jordan Henderson being in that position as the midfield player, coming into that position, and Trent being high up the pitch. Well, he knows that position as well. So you've got to be high up the pitch, and he knows that a midfield player is going to fill in that space for him.
How many times, Leroy?
And as we play it on.
How many times have you done a training session? You've done a training session where ball's in midfield, fire a few little passes, work it out wide player get the cross, centre forward make you run. This here is a carbon copy of why that drill happens every single day. And it's a move that people practice so much. And that's wide, cross, centre forward, finish.
And this is absolute perfection. The way the cross is brilliant, and just has to get his head on it.
Is there a better fullback in the league?
Right, I think I did ask you, Don, last week. Who's better?
Two might go like that straight away.
Yeah.
Cancelo will put his hand up.
Cancelo.
And Trent.
I would have them all. I think they all do Look, I think Reece James and Trent are similar, but people say Trent, he's not as good as a defender, but you know what? The way Liverpool play, he suits Liverpool down to the ground. James, I think, suits Chelsea down to the ground. Adds Cancelo, playing a full-back left.
Put them in an order, Lee.
Oh, in an order?
Before you've done that to me.
Just an easy question.
Yeah.
OK, and I'd have Trent, James and Cancelo joint first.
The great thing about that, no one's right and no one's wrong, because the three of them are brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we've just seen loads of runs of him in an attacking way, and here we're looking at him as part of a defence that is so tight and so stingy. 4 Premier League goals in 12 games. That's phenomenal.
That's the work of Thomas Tuchel. That's a manager coming in and knowing exactly what I want first and foremost. That's clean sheets. Don't give anything away. So I'm going to work on my back five. I'm going to work on different personnel. And then once you get the benefits of that, they know what they're doing. I'll step into midfield. And what's Kovacic and what's Kante and what's Jorginho doing? And how can I get my wing-backs a bit higher? Then what can I have on Lukaku and Timo Werner? And then Hudson-Odoi. So it's brilliant management.
The scary thing... Sorry, Seema, I was just going to say, but the scary thing is they're going to spend, 80, 90 million on Lukaku. They actually look more secure without him.
Yeah.
You know, Havertz in the midfield, all of a sudden the Chelsea Man City are playing without a centre-forward and look more security.
I had this exact conversation with Joe Cole when we were watching the Champions League game against Juve, and I said, when Lukaku's fit, does he come back into the team? And he was like, no one walks straight back into this team because they're playing. And actually, just to show you what the Premier League table looks like since Tuchel took over, of course, he came in on the 26th of Jan. On the 27th of January, Chelsea, well, they've won the most points, 67 points. Man City just 71, so just behind 71 since Tuchel's taken over, which just goes to show how good a job he has done, Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I did say that when he first came in, he was boring, which he was. He was dull, he was pragmatic. But they needed to do that to get everything in place. And all of a sudden, they are looking really dynamic. And you know what? The squad is ridiculous. Because we're saying Chilwell has been amazing the last few weeks, a massive injury. For any other team, they've got Marcos Alonso, who was brilliant at the start of the season to come in. So the squad's great. And the rotation. And that is why he's such a good manager. Not just because of the tactics, but the way he rotates things. And every time a player comes in, it looks like they've never been away.
You know what I like about him? There's no waffle. I think he's honest. I think he looks to me like he's straight as a die. And he'll say to you, if you're Ross Barkley, you're in.
Yeah.
Who has been nowhere. Ross Barkley, you're in. I'm not just going to go to Kante or Kovacic because the big names are Jorginho.
Yeah.
If you're playing well and you're fit, you're in. Don't lose the shirt. You might have to work on one or two players, like you worked with Hudson-Odoi, who we hardly saw at the start of the season. Now you get to a point where it's Hudson-Odoi's shirt to lose. You
also get the impression that when he took over, he was like, right, this is a clean slate for everybody.
Definitely.
Because Marcos Alonso was out. Rudiger was out. You know, Rudiger's, ended up being...
Ben Chilwell didn't start a game, Jonathan, for what, 6 games, 7 games?
But what's most impressive is Kepa. How he's brought Kepa back into the fold. Everybody thought Kepa's got to go. 75 million, waste the money.
Yeah.
Most expensive goalkeeper everywhere. And he's not played. Kepa looks the happiest he's ever been sat on the bench at Chelsea. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but what a job Tuchel's doing. Because the bench, they're all sat on the bench and they're happy. When Kepa comes in, he performs.
Smile might be wiped off his face, though.
What's that?
African Cup of Nations, kept back in.
Back in, yeah.
Annexations.
You just get the impression that Thomas Tuchel is very fair. And I suppose all of the players that I've ever spoken about and to, they just want the manager to be fair.
JJ, you bang on. Players are not daft. They can smell waffle. They know when a player comes in, he stands there. And every single time, Leroy, it's a clean slate for everyone. Yeah. And 5 or 6 of them going, nah.
Are they potato waffles?
So,
what do you have on your waffle?
Before we get to a break,
can
we get a score prediction on this one?
3-0 Chelsea.
Wow.
Tight. 1-0 Chelsea.
Ooh, OK. Well, after the break.